Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. My name is Joe Betty and I'm the owner here at Borough Motors in Somerset, and I'm also the owner of carsbought4more.com. Some of you may have seen a video that I put out earlier this week talking about some of the problems that car dealers are facing, and the most common kind of answer or comment that came up in that video, and actually we get quite a lot, made me feel like I needed to do another video just to kind of explain this because it drives me insane, and that is that car dealers deserve it because of the high prices they've been charging for so long, and they've been ripping people off on prices for so long. While I'm flattered that some people think car dealers have so much control over the market that we can just make up prices, and the inflated prices since the pandemic are obviously all our doing and nothing else to do with the economy in general, I thought we'd sit on the bonnet of a £300 part exchange car that we've taken and just let me try and explain it as kind of simply and non-motor trade related as I can, why that's just not the case. There's a dog coming through the fence. Hello. Now, we all know that the prices of cars have gone up rather than going down in recent years. They're sort of leveling off now, but for a good while there after the pandemic, prices were really going up. And I mean, they're still way up on where they should have been. A lot of the comments in the video were saying, I bought a car, let's say 8 years ago for £3,500, and they're still selling for that sort of money because the prices have gone up. What a lot of people seem to be doing is blaming the car dealers for that, which just doesn't really make sense. What car dealers always have done is they will buy the car that they want to sell with the hope of making their sort of set margin, really, the minimum you're willing to make on that car. And as you may well have seen in the previous video, and if you haven't, then go back and watch it. And some of the other videos we've done here where I've broken down all of the expenses that a car dealer will face, you know, from fixing the car to the VAT that we pay on the difference between what we bought it for and selling it for. There's going to be a minimum that you're going to want to make on a car because it soon whittles down, especially when you've got staff, overheads, bills to pay. What happened after the pandemic there is the prices of cars went up astronomically, didn't they? Now, if you were holding a lot of cars, you might have done quite well. You might have made a little bit of extra money because the value of your stock went up and you had a lot of stock, so therefore you made quite a bit of money. I always admired the people who, when the pandemic rolled around and everyone sort of backed off and started panicking, including me, wanting to preserve your money and make sure you didn't spend it, they were still spending, which I thought was quite brave, and it paid off for them because not many other people were buying, they were getting bargains because everyone was panicking, and then the prices went up and they did very well out of it. There's an element where if you had a lot of stock, you did quite well, and in fact, I had some cars that were sitting around for quite a while that needed some repairs, and in the end we managed to spend a lot of money repairing them and still break even or make a small profit because the values had gone up so high. But what happens after that first couple of months there while you're selling cars and the demand is high and the prices have gone up is you need to replace the stock. And it's not just dealer prices that are high, prices were high across the board, so where we would go and buy our stock was also more expensive, and we're still trying to work for those margins. But in fact, what actually happened, contrary to what people are saying, you know, dealers were just making loads of money because the prices were going up, as if we could just make it up. And I'll explain why we can't just make up prices and charge what we want. You would find that things were so busy that there was more demand for that stock. So you actually had to work for a smaller margin than you were pre-pandemic, because there were so many people trying to buy that stock, and it was a bit of a gold rush in a sense. People, you know, the demand was high, even if the profits weren't that much higher, that you were fighting against more people to buy it, and maybe other people were willing to work for smaller margins, which meant that you had to work for smaller margins. So rather than this idea that car dealers are just having it away and we're just plucking numbers out of thin air and somehow being like, this old car that we've taken in part exchange, I've decided it's worth £3,000 and I'm going to charge that, and the people who would come and buy it were just somehow victims and they would have had a gun to their head insisting that they buy it, which clearly isn't the case. We were just dealing with the market. One thing I said in the comments was, there's an age-old saying, something is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it, and that's the consumer. So whatever the consumer is willing to pay for that car dictates the market price. If I was to put this car up for £4,000 and no one buys it, it's not worth £4,000, is it? If I put it up for £3,000, but I was only offered £2,000, then the market value is probably £2,000. We can't just say this is a £10,000 car and manipulate the market. We don't have that much control. One of the huge things that would stop you from doing that, even if you wanted to, is price markers on everything from Auto Trader to eBay to Car Gurus. They've all got markers on there which tell you what those cars are actually selling for. If you put a car on there that's way over those prices, it will say it's a high price. So in fact, not only is it the consumer setting the prices, the advertising platforms are also controlling the prices, telling you that you can't advertise it too high because they're going to say to the people who are looking at it, this car is priced too high. So I really don't get this idea of car dealers are making loads of money because the prices are inflated now. That undeniably the car prices have gone up and they've stayed up, and cars that following a natural trend would have been much cheaper. You know, this car, which is an outlier, I suppose, would have, you know, we've paid £300 for it because it's high mileage. And if you want to see this car in depth, then definitely subscribe to our 2.0 channel, because we'll be doing a cheap car purchase video on that. They haven't gone down, they've leveled and they've stayed high. That's just not the car dealer's fault. I don't think you go to the supermarket and say, God, these supermarkets are really taking the mick, these carrots. You know, they used to be 50p and now they're 80p. Supermarkets, they're disgusting, they're ripping us off. We are making the same, if not less, than we ever were before. We have to buy cars at the inflated price as it goes up. We're entering the market. It's like stocks and shares. I don't know how else to explain it. You know, you're buying in at this rate, selling at this rate if you can. You know, if the prices were going down, then, you know, you'd have to deal with that. But you're just buying in at the market, putting your markup on. The next time, if the market's gone up, you're buying again. I don't know how else I can explain it, that it's not car dealers being greedy. Are there some cases where car dealers are being unscrupulous? Of course there are in every industry, but I don't think you can make a blanket claim that car dealers have been overcharging us for too long. They haven't. They've been putting a markup on for their services, which, again, a lot of you in the comments will say that car dealers are redundant and not needed because you could go directly to, in fact, one of the comments I read was you could go to buy the same car in the next street over for £1,000 less, which frankly I think would be foolish, really, because if you were to go and buy that car over the next street over for £1,000 less, great if you can afford it in cash, but if you needed finance services, then I don't think anyone's going to lend against a car that you're buying privately. Some might, don't get me wrong, some might, but it's not going to be as easy. And let's say something happens on that car 6 months down the line and the engine blows up, you are going to have no legal recourse whatsoever, unlike if you went to a dealership where you had a nice experience and they maybe serviced the car for you and made it sure it was up to your standards, and you had that peace of mind when it goes forward that you have some cover there. So that's the sort of service that you get from a garage that you wouldn't get privately. Would it be cheaper? Yeah, of course it would. But that's the whole reason for garages, and that's why people like it. Also, the fact of a part exchange. If you've got a car like this, the paint's falling off, it's on 170,000 miles, and we've given £300 for, which I think is quite generous because scrap value is probably 220. It just makes it convenient. You can drive one car there and drive one car out. It's not going to be for everyone, but that's just the way it goes. Now, for those who are going to complain about the people who did make a profit, and me, for example, where I kind of managed to not lose money on cars that I'd had around for a long time during the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of you will have owned a car, and when it came to selling it and the value was still high, or had gone up even, I bet you weren't like, do you know what? No worries, mate. I would have made £2,000 profit on that. I'm not going to do that because why not just give the money away? Or your house, for example, that had exponentially gone up in value. I don't imagine that when you came to sell it, you said to the estate agent, do you know what? That sounds like too much. I know I bought it for 150 and you're saying it's 300,000 now. I really feel like 200,000 would be fair. I want the next person to have £100,000 off me. It just doesn't work like that. This is capitalism. We are in a capitalist society. If you want communism, then I'm sure you could head over to North Korea, and that's pretty much as simple as it gets. Yeah, that is my little rant, basically, because I just cannot believe that people think car dealers are setting the market price. I mean, we wish we could, and we would try and make more profits so we could pay more staff and taxes and all that good stuff that comes with running any business. But alas, we cannot. Anyway, that is my rant, and if you do want to sell your car and cut out some of the middlemen and hopefully get yourself better money for it, then head to carsboughtformore.com. And if you are a car dealer and you're suffering with all of your high auction prices, struggling to find good stock, then head to carsboughtformore.com/trade, and you can find some of those lovely cars on there from our lovely viewers and subscribers, and you could buy those, and hopefully everyone wins. Don't forget, if you want a car that you don't have to worry about the value of at all because you could win it for just £2, then check out our Jaguar F-Type competition. We are raffling it off for just £2. If you buy 10 tickets, you will get 5 for free, and a portion of all the proceeds will go to help Jack's neuroblastoma journey. We have raised over £10,000 this year. This competition is going to tip us over the edge of beating the sum total that we made for the entire year last year. So even if you don't win, you can feel really, really great about it, that we've helped an amazing cause. All the information will be on the website. Go to feelgoodcompetitions.com. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. As soon as we hit 200,000 subscribers, which we're trying to do by the end of the year, we'll be giving away a £5,500 Tudor watch, completely free to one of our subscribers, just like we did with the Tag Heuer when we hit 75,000, 100,000, I can't even remember. But you better find that on the Feel Good Competitions website as well. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.